This changes everything. Have you ever said this, or maybe even thought this? There are things in our lives that happen, good and bad, that can completely change its trajectory. Often we don't even see it coming, and perhaps we don't even appreciate its significance until long after the event. So I thought this could be a really fascinating and affirming thing to write about together today in our journals. I'm already thinking about lots of things. Probably you are similar, that there's lots of things that's happened in your life that when you look back you think, wow, if that hadn't happened, then where would I be? Or yeah, like things that you feel grateful for as well, I hope. So yeah, it might be kind of tricky to choose just one, but here is our writing prompt. What has been the most defining moment in your life? Describe one moment in your life that you'll never forget and why it's unforgettable. How did you feel during the defining moment, and how do you feel about it now? So last month I did a keynote speech for International Women's Day, and for the first time I shared my background, so my story about my childhood, and that in itself was so defining. I feel like I'd always said to myself I could never do something like that, so to be able to stand up and do that, yeah, it was quite a pivotal moment. But when I spoke about my experiences as a child, I told a few different parts of my story, but one thing I talked about was how I left home at a very young age. And yeah, I was only 16, I was still at school, and moved into a holiday village where I got paid £2.50 an hour to wait tables and clean rooms, and it allowed me to finish my exams in a slightly less chaotic environment, and I saved enough money to get to university. So that for me did change the whole trajectory of my life, that decision. And I remember my first day arriving at the holiday village and feeling like physically sick, like what am I doing? And I was so nervous. And you know, my like if you've read like my report cards, like the teachers are always like, oh, she's really quiet, and like I would never speak to anyone, and I was always really, you know, like within myself. So yeah, to do something like that was massive, and yeah, it did change my whole life. So I went to university. That's where I met my husband Thomas. I graduated as a chemical engineer, and I worked as a chemical engineer for a very long time and have had a very successful career. So I thank my younger self so much for taking that brave leap. She was so brave. So yeah, that changed everything for me. A really surreal thing to look back on as well, because my son turns 16 in the summer, and I cannot imagine him, you know, having to make that kind of a decision. And you know, he's quite mature, he's really grown up, but yeah, it makes me really reflect on what happened. And 16 to make these kinds of decisions is just crazy. Yes, we all have stories like this, these defining moments. I'd love to know what the prompt is making you think about, what has brought you to where you are today. I hope you enjoy today's journaling exercise and have a beautiful day. Yesterday was lovely. I think I've caught the sun a little bit. Today it's not so lovely, but I'm sure it will be a good day anyway. And as always, I will be back tomorrow.